Arizona, homeowner's best friend.
The town of Kirtland had come up. The Kirtland Bar and Steakhouse claimed to have the oldest operating elevator in the entire state, down to the basement where they would keep all their food before refrigerators came along.
Do tell. That's something new.
Only at Rosie on the house.
I gotta listen to this radio show.
Only at Rosie on the house.
Sometimes between Wickenburg and Prescott, you got to stop for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, they're good. They're very good.
All right, so let's go back to the Capitol, what came from Kirtland that went on the Capitol? The
tufa.
Tufa stone.
Tufa stone.
Yeah.
And on top of the tufa stone, we've got the famous copper dome.
Well, it wasn't really copper.
The Copper State didn't have copper on the dome?
Not in day one, because just today, as always then, we got to save a buck here and there, and so they couldn't afford to put real copper on the copper dome. So the building was roofed in turn metal, steel with tin and lead coating. Painted out, and that's what was on top of the dome for a while, and they painted it copper color, and it wore off.
The same sheet metal Swilling had covering his well house.
So when was the real copper put on?
Well, the mining companies got together and were pressured into donating some copper, and it was in the late 70s, early 80s.
That's what I read.
That it was put on.
The first time it was put on.
The first time, and the thickness of the copper sheeting was pretty thin, and it started to oil can, have dimples in it. And what year was it we had the hailstorm? 2011. That just
pulverized
did a number on it. It looked like a golf ball. It was just full of dimples, and that was another embarrassment. So,
what's the little statue on the top, Steve?
Well, it's known as Winged Victory. It's actually a weather vane. It turns. I think there was a point where the legislators wanted it to turn because originally the rear end was facing them, and they didn't like that fact, so they made it a weather vane. But Phoenix essentially in its early days was a bunch
learn
of
that stuff. Where else do you go to learn that stuff?
More than you wanted to know.
Oh, man, that's great.
But it was a bunch of farmers. But even in the midst of agriculture and farmers, there were some Wild West cowboys. I mean, there was a time where we probably had 2 to 3 times more saloons than churches in town. But these cowboys, after a few drinks and they get a little bit wild, they'd ride their horses out Washington to the Capitol and have target practice. And
at the weather vane?
At the weather vane. And when they took it down, maybe when the wind damage was being estimated, there were actual bullet holes in Winged Victory, and they chose, again, just for the Arizona-Phoenix lore, to leave them in there.
Romy, that's a respectable shot with a Winchester 70-70. That's a respectable shot. Oh, man. Now, I understand you guys are coming back next week, and we're going to take the history of Phoenix from the construction of the Capitol building, basically 1800.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk our way forward to today.
And the Capitol Museum that we're talking about, well, it's a museum now. It's not the Capitol building. What year was the extension made? It's 11 stories, I think.
There's 3 editions. There's the 1919. That's the one I'm working on the facade right now. Then there's the 1938 Law Library. And then in the back with the tall 9-story tower, the Governor's Tower, that's 1973.
What awful architect designed that? Because you got this beautiful Capitol building and then this ugly square. We'll talk about it next week.
Rosie on the house, every Arizona homeowner's best friend.